If your dog suddenly barks at an empty corner, he may be sensing something you cannot. Good Boy tells its story through the eyes of Indy, a loyal dog who has spent years beside his owner, Todd. One day, Todd suffers a severe nosebleed and collapses while Indy watches a dark figure appear in the room. As Indy stares in confusion, Todd's sister Vera rushes in and realizes her brother needs help. She calls an ambulance. After leaving the hospital, Todd gives up his city apartment and takes Indy to his late grandfather's long vacant house in the country. Indy is uneasy. Ever since Todd became ill, the dog has noticed faint figures lingering close to his owner. Todd and Indy reach the isolated house in pouring rain. Todd has not returned in years, but he still remembers where the spare key is hidden. Dust and clutter cover the rooms, yet the house remains full of childhood memories for him. Indy feels no such comfort. A foul smell and a sudden chill immediately put him on edge. He follows the odor to the basement, where Todd is repairing the wiring. Indy barks a warning, but Todd cannot understand him. Once the power is restored, Todd begins watching old videotapes he finds in a cabinet. The recordings show that Todd's grandfather also had a beloved dog named Bandit. Todd's grandfather later died in the house, and Bandit vanished afterward. As Indy watches the footage, lightning briefly reveals a shape in the doorway. Determined to investigate, Indy runs after the figure. He searches the house without success. Then, in an upstairs storage room, Indy spots the figure curled in a corner. Todd arrives with a lamp, and it disappears. Todd takes Indy outside while he continues working on the house. Vera calls and asks whether Indy has been behaving strangely around him. Vera reminds Todd that dogs can detect illnesses and other changes humans miss. Todd dismisses the concern and returns to the wiring. The overhead light begins to flicker, and Indy whimpers as if he can see something moving nearby. Frustrated by the barking, Todd brings Indy to bed. That night, Indy dreams of an unfamiliar dog sitting in the basement and staring back at him. The next morning, Todd heads into town for supplies and leaves Indy alone to guard the house. Night falls before Todd returns. Indy hears distant barking and traces the sound to an air vent. The dog from his dreams suddenly appears. Indy follows the apparition upstairs, but it vanishes near a wardrobe, leaving a red bandana on the floor. Indy sniffs the bandana and recognizes a scent connected to the house. His eyes widen as a black, mud-covered hand reaches toward him from the darkness. Footsteps approach upstairs, and a terrified Indy scrambles beneath the bed. The silhouette enters the room. This time, the figure is only Todd returning home. Indy approaches him, but his exhausted owner pushes him away. Todd says he is completely drained and only wants to sleep. His violent cough and freshly bandaged arm suggest that the trip into town included another hospital visit. Indy stays alert beside him. Indy quietly keeps watch until a cold presence passes through the room. He wakes to find wet black footprints crossing the floor. The trail leads downstairs, where Todd walks through the living room in a daze. Something is clearly wrong. Todd repeatedly slams his head against the basement door. Indy grabs Todd's pant leg and pulls until his owner finally snaps out of the trance. Todd remembers none of it the next morning. While he rubs his bruised forehead, Vera calls again, increasingly worried about his condition. Todd's chronic lung disease appears linked to the illness that killed his grandfather. Hearing movement upstairs, Indy finds an empty rocking chair and sees a vision of the old man coughing blood before the dark hand drags Indy away. The basement door eventually opens, and a weakened Todd finds Indy covered in mud. While washing the dog, Todd coughs up blood, echoing the final days shown in his grandfather's recordings. Indy fears the same presence is closing in on Todd. A medical examination soon confirms that his owner's condition is serious and that treatment options are limited. Todd's health and behavior continue to deteriorate, while the shapes inside the house become harder to dismiss. Indy refuses to leave his side, sensing that something is waiting to take him. While Todd sleeps, Indy sees the shadow leave the bedroom. He follows it, only to watch Todd fall down the stairs and lose consciousness. Indy suddenly wakes, suggesting it was another nightmare. Then Todd pulls him beneath the bed, apparently hiding from something in the room. Indy first assumes Todd is confused again until the wet black hand reaches beneath the bed. He bites at it instinctively, but Todd's scream reveals that Indy has bitten his owner instead. Angry and frightened by Indy's behavior, Todd chains him outside. Through the rain, Indy watches the dark figure gather near the upstairs window. When Todd begins coughing blood, Indy tries to reach him, but the chain pulls tight. Indy overturns the doghouse and breaks the chain free. The front door is locked, but barking draws him to the open cellar. At the bottom, he discovers the remains of another dog. The bones reveal that Bandit never ran away. He died beneath the house. Upstairs, Todd struggles to breathe as black footprints appear across his bedroom floor. The bedroom door bursts open, but it is Indy, and Todd briefly relaxes. Then he looks toward the bed and sees his own lifeless body already lying there. Before Todd can process it, the dark figure seizes him and drags him away. Seeing Todd in danger, Indy races after his owner. Blocked by a locked door, Indy crashes through a window and follows Todd's cries into the basement. A cavernous tunnel stretches beyond the cellar, and Indy manages to pull Todd partway back. Just as they reach the cellar entrance, the dark figure rises behind them again. Indy whimpers as the presence closes around Todd. Accepting that his dog cannot save him, Todd tells Indy to stay behind and calls him a good boy. It drags Todd back into the tunnel. This time, Indy obeys. He remains at the entrance instead of following Todd into the darkness. Whether the presence is death itself, a haunting, or Indy's way of understanding terminal illness is deliberately left uncertain. Todd's body remains upstairs while Indy waits alone at the cellar through the night. Unlike Bandit, who died waiting for Todd's grandfather, Indy finally chooses not to follow his owner into death. The next morning, Vera arrives after failing to reach her brother. She finds Todd dead and Indy sitting at the cellar entrance, then tearfully calls the dog to come home with her. Because the film stays close to Indy's perspective and uses little dialogue, its supernatural images remain intentionally ambiguous. The clear emotional story is Indy's refusal to abandon Todd, even when saving him becomes impossible. As Vera drives away from the house, Indy rides with his head outside the car window, beginning a new life without Todd. A familiar whistle makes Indy turn back toward the car.